What does it actually mean to call something American art? When I visited the American art exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum, that was my main question on my mind. Not just who painted what, or what year something was made, but who gets included in the story of America and who doesn't. The Brooklyn Museum is one of the oldest institutions collecting American art. Dating back to the 1800s, historically, American art collections in museums focused heavily on colonial portraiture, Hudson River school landscapes, and neoclassical sculpture. Art that often centered white, wealthy narratives of American expansion and identity. But this reinstallation, titled Towards Joy, New Frameworks for American Art, does something different. Under the leadership of curator Stephanie Sparling Williams, the exhibit shifts away from a strictly chronological timeline and instead organizes works into thematic frameworks. These frameworks emphasize Black feminist perspectives, BIPOC, and historically marginalized voices. Instead of asking, what happened next in American art, the exhibit asks, whose America are we looking at? One of the works that really stood out to me was Shifting the Gaze by Titus Kaphar. Kaphar is known for literally altering traditional portrait styles to expose what history tried to hide. His work critiques classical European portraiture, the kind that often erased Black presence or reduced it to the background. In Shifting the Gaze, the act of looking becomes political. The painting forces viewers to reconsider who has historically controlled representation. Instead of passively consuming a portrait, you're confronted with the power dynamics behind it. From a historical lens, Kaphar is referencing classical techniques, oil painting, realism, formal portrait structure, but from a sociological lens, he's dismantling them. That duality reflects what this entire exhibit is trying to do: reclaim space within a canon that wasn't originally built for everyone. Another major piece I focus on is Bound by Kay Wiley. Wiley is famous for placing Black subjects into grand traditional European portrait settings. His style mirrors aristocratic paintings you'd normally see in institutions like the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but he replaces kings and generals with contemporary Black individuals. This isn't just aesthetic, it's intervention. Wiley challenges centuries of exclusion by inserting Black identity into spaces historically reserved for whiteness and power. The ornate backgrounds, the posture, the scale, everything communicates authority. By placing Wiley's works inside the American art galleries, the Brooklyn Museum makes a statement. American identity is not static, and it is not singular. It is layered, it is contested, it is ever evolving. The third work I examined was Chinatown Block Watch by Susan Chen. This piece expands the definition of American identity beyond Black and white narratives. It highlights Asian American presence and community visibility, especially with urban environments like New York. Brooklyn itself is one of the most culturally diverse boroughs in the country, so the museum's location matters. This exhibit would not feel the same in every institution. At the Brooklyn Museum, surrounded by one of the most diverse populations in America, the framing feels intentional. The museum is not just representing art, it is reflecting its community. What makes this reinstallation particularly interesting is its emphasis on joy. Previous versions of American art galleries were criticized for being overly critical of American history, focusing heavily on colonialism, imperialism, and oppression. While those histories are undeniably real, some audiences felt the experience was punishing rather than reflective. The new installation does not ignore those histories. Instead, it reframes them. Joy here is not naive celebration. It feels more like resistance, a reclaiming of narrative, a reminder that marginalized communities have always created beauty, even within systems designed to exclude them. However, there is a potential critique. By emphasizing joy, there is a risk that trauma becomes softened. While the exhibit acknowledges historical injustices, it leans more towards empowerment than confrontation. Whether that is a strength or a limitation depends on how you interpret the role of museums. Should they primarily critique the nation or help reimagine it? From an interdisciplinary perspective, this exhibit operates on two levels. Through an art historical lens, it recontextualizes traditional genres like portraiture and landscape. Through a sociological lens, it actively reconstructs national identity. Museums are not neutral spaces, they shape public memory. They decide what is preserved, what is celebrated, what is centered. And in this case, the Brooklyn Museum is making a clear argument. American art is not owned by one race, one class, or one narrative. It is a collective. Overall, I believe the American art exhibit succeeds in redefining what American means. By centering artists like Titus Kaphar and Kay Wiley, and by organizing the galleries around frameworks instead of timelines, the museum challenges traditional power structures within art history. It invites viewers not to just look, but to reconsider. And in time, where national identity is constantly debated, that feels especially relevant. American art, according to this exhibit, is not just about the past. It's about who we choose to see and who we finally allow to be seen. Sincerely, Andy.